Good evening, Nigeria. Good evening, Lagos. This is Pulse, and we are back with the continued live coverage of the presidential and National Assembly elections. I am Elijah, and with me in the studio is Nuruddin Shotaya. Hi, Nuruddin.
Hi, Ima. How you doing?
I'm doing great. If you were here with us yesterday, good for you. If you were not here with us, go check out all our pages, all our social media pages, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube to catch up with everything we discussed concerning the 2023 general elections yesterday. So Nuru, how far now? How's it going?
Wow. It's been a very interesting day so far. This is day 2 of election collation, right? Mm-hmm. It was meant to start on Saturday, but no state was actually announced.
Yeah.
But eventually we were able to get announcement of one state yesterday, that was Ekiti State, and then from there a lot of things
postponed, and then there's been a lot of basketballs. There's been a lot of,
it has been a day of drama.
It's been a dramatic day. Remember yesterday while we were doing this live, we had almost nothing to tell the viewers about results and about collation because they had even postponed it because we were on in the afternoon, and then it was supposed to come up at like 2:30, but then INEC chairman came out and then postponed it to 6. So we had little or nothing to tell people. But today, please tell them what we have. Like how much are we offering?
Where do we want to start from? I mean, we've had been long.
Actually, I know where we should start from.
All right.
The agents of the People's Democratic Party at the National Collation Center for the presidential election, Senator Dino Melaye, has mobilized other party agents, including the Labour Party, to stage a walkout from the collation center while alleging manipulation by the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC. Can we have a video, please?
I've repeatedly told Nigerians that there will be transmission of results from polling unit directly to the server. And we found out that this has not been done. INEC failed in this regard. And when I raised this issue today, supported by other party agents, the national chairman of INEC vehemently invaded that, because what section 47(3) emphasized is that wherever the card reader or the beavers fail, if they cannot get a replacement, election should be cancelled in those areas. And we have seen from the presentation of the results from Ekiti yesterday that some places were cancelled as a result of bypassing beavers. So the only way to detect that beavers have been bypassed is for us to see the uploaded results. And we insisted that the chairman should show us here now the uploaded results state by state, just like the way they are displaying the collated results they are presenting. And that is the only way to test the veracity and authenticity of these results. If not, we are only here to endorse the fraud that has been done from the unit to the ward to the state. We are not here to rubber stamp infractions. We are not here to rubber stamp the abnormalities that have been done. We are here to check them. But the national chairman of INEC is not giving us opportunity to question what they are doing. He's saying that all has been done, meaning we are just here to rubber stamp. And we are going to prove that we are not here to rubber stamp. We have no other country to call our own but this country. We are going to do everything humanly possible to make sure that the right thing must be done. But we want to tell you, that we will not allow, having suffered pain in this country, having suffered poverty, hunger, kidnapping, killings, we will not allow a continuation of failure. We must make sure that the right thing is done. And national chairman is putting his integrity on test. We are putting his integrity on test. Nigerians are watching. The world is watching. Even the dead are watching to see what INEC will do. But the battle to make sure that only authentic results will be announced here today is a battle of no retreat, no surrender. Authentic results will be.
Wow.
How intense. Neuroplex, can I get your reaction to that?
Well, I guess the PDP agent, Senator Dino Melaye, was not impressed about a lot of things that has gone on since voting ended on Saturday. Just before this particular act, there was a mild drama that ensued in the collation center where Dino Melaye was trying to called the attention of the INEC chairman to some discrepancies in the figures that were announced for Ekiti State. And it seems the INEC chairman, tried to explain to Dino Melaye that even though his complaints, were acknowledged, collation at that level does not, entertain issues around results, figures not adding up, and every other thing like that. So the best thing they could do is to approach the election tribunal, which has been already been set up. So basically, issues that have to do with election results are usually resolved at ward level, local government level, before it gets to the state level and then Abuja. So, and I think at every stage of collation, you have party agents, appending their signature to all these results sheets, just to give them some form of authenticity and to give them consent that they witnessed the election and that the results that were tabulated were actually the reflection of what happened at polling unit, what level, and all that. But then again, it seems like the Labour Party also agreed with what Dino Melaye said, because they've also raised concerns in some states, even in states that they managed to win election. For instance, in Lagos, they believe that they should have won with a wider margin in Lagos. So they believe that a lot of irregularities had gone down with the election. And so they've raised issues about the credibility of the process. And as we just saw in the video right now, Dino Melaye at the end of the day said PDP has decided not to be part of the coalition any longer, and then they would announce their next course of action. So we really don't know where this is going, but just before we came to the studio, Labour Party has already they did a press conference where they called on INEC to suspend result announcement. Or
I think they called to suspend the collation and the result announcement, and possibly even something about reconducting
the election all over again. So I mean, these are the kind of things that you would witness in an election of this nature, because we all knew before the election started that this is going to be a very, very close election, and you can see from the results that have been announced so far, there's really not been a particular party or a candidate that has been able to dominate a state, except maybe from the results we are beginning to see from the Southeast. You could see that the margin of victory between the first and second and third, is very, very wide. But across the country, in all the northern states, the margin is very close. So this shows how keenly contested this particular presidential election has been. And if you have an election that is as close as this, I mean, there will be grievances from whoever that is looking likely to end up on the losing end. So that is why you see the PDP trying to raise some concerns and see how they can change the narrative to suit them. APC have also really did their own press conference calling for the arrest of Dino Melaye, Pastor Pauline Eche, and Dele Momodu, because earlier in the day, even before the coalition resumed today, PDP did a press conference where Dele Momodu and some other guys in their presidential campaign team alleged all these things, and they claimed that the APC were trying to manipulate results in some other states that had not been announced as at that point. In fact, they said in Imo State and I think Ebonyi State that APC were pressuring the INEC officials there because they knew that their candidates had not been able to secure 25% of votes cast in 24 states, which is the constitutional requirement before a president can be declared. So, I mean, this is what the election is all about. These things are not new.
It's the chaos of
right?
it. Yeah.
It's the chaos of the election.
And those are the things that actually make it interesting. Those are the things that make it historical.
Exactly. So, but yeah, I just want to urge Nigerians not to, get too emotional with this thing, it's very difficult to lose an election, right? If you have ever supported a candidate and your candidate ends up on the losing side in an election, you know that it's a very bitter pill to swallow. So there is tendency for emotions to run high.
I'm sure guys know this thing well because of football.
Yeah. No. So I was trying to compare losing an election to your club losing a football match, for instance. But the difference is
you're not as invested because you're not voting. You're not actually part of the playing process. So you're actually just a viewer.
So that's another angle to it. So the interesting angle with election is that you have this build up to election. It could last for as long as 4 years.
Yeah, true that.
Right? But in football, your team might lose today and next week they would have an opportunity to redeem themselves. Yeah. But if your candidate loses an election,
4 years or never.
4 years, you have to
or never, like
to be without them for 4 years. So it's a life-changing experience. Let's take it. It's a life-changing experience for people. Especially election that a lot of youths actually came out to be part of the process, and they felt like this was a golden opportunity for them, or the best opportunity they would ever had to make a big change in the country. And the way everything looks to be going right now, it seems is not going the way some people think or they want it to go. Of course, there'll be concerns raised, there'll be grievances, but at the end of the day, whatever evidence you have to prove that some malfeasance or some manipulations that have taken place, the best place to take those evidence to is the court of law. So protesting or granting interviews will not change anything, because the law is clear. If there are infractions in the elections, there are appropriate quarters that you can address, that you can channel your concerns to. So at the end of the day, that's what the PDP, that's what I expect them to do at the end of the day. But this is not to say they've lost the election, because the way the conversation is evolving now, it's as if one party is trying to concede defeat already. INEC has only announced 10 states so far, even though a particular candidate is leading, but we still have 36 states to go. So let's see how things, pan out at the end.
Let's actually get back to, Dino Melaye, and the commotion and the drama, as you called it, that he caused in the collation center. The former lawmaker, Dino Melaye, had challenged all the results presented by the various state collation officers. He wants the results presented at the polling units displayed on the INEC website for comparison with the ones presented by the state collation officers. Let's take a look.
You are now being disruptive.
I am not disrupting. The Electoral Act says that what is uploaded is
now being disruptive.
You can bundle me out, but the right thing must be done. I'm a party agent. That is what the Constitution says.
You are now being disruptive of the process.
I am not being disruptive. I'm asking what is uploaded is
next score, please. After the presentation, then we'll come back to the issues you've raised. Let's take the next step.
We are saying that let him declare that what is uploaded is what he's going to present. At least let him make that statement.
Okay.
Dino. What does that? Does that evoke any memory?
For me?
What you just watched now? 2015, Saturn Rubebe. Okay, so in 2015, President Muhammadu Buhari's election, right? When.
Oh.
So that card that Dino pulled right there was right out of Rubebe's book. Yeah.
Now that you're saying it, Dino Melaye. This is what happened just before he staged the walkout, where other party men or other party agents joined him. For instance, the Labour Party, not many parties, not all parties. I think the APC still stayed back.
And 11 other parties.
And 11 other parties still stayed back. But Dino and a few others have just not been happy with the process. And they're demanding something, yeah? But for me, and this is me putting out my own opinion, for me, there are ways to go about this than being very disruptive of the process. And I see a lot of people online hailing him, and I just need to know, like, am I the only one really thinking that there's another way to go about this, challenge it in the court? Like you said something earlier, that this is not the way to go about it, that there's a laid down procedure, and this is not the time or the channel or the avenue or the place to raise these particular concerns. So from your experience, how do you think, or what do you think is a better way for Dino to express or raise his concern, apart from what, the display of drama at the collation center and in front of the whole world?
I'm sorry to say, Dino has always been synonymous with drama, right? I mean, everybody knows. I mean, the other day we saw him falling on the stage trying to mimic the APC candidate. Yeah. So Dino was made for this kind of things. So I was not really surprised, but I just felt like he could have, done it with a bit more decorum, because this particular election has the eyes of the world, looking at Nigeria. We have foreign observers from the Commonwealth, European Union. Everybody is interested in this particular election, right? And if you have issues with how things have been playing out, like the INEC chairman said, and like you also rightly said, there are channels that you could have explored to register your concerns, and without putting up all this drama and trying to be disruptive of the process, it's really not something we should encourage in our electoral process, because he said some things at some point. There was a point he was saying, if the INEC chairman would not do the right things, Nigeria would defend their right with their blood. I mean, this
I remember hearing that.
Excuse me, I heard that. So this kind of statement borders on incitement, right? And the emotions are running high. A lot of people are angry, and just one word, badly used, could actually, inflame things, and before you know it, people will hit the street and start, protesting. And these are not elections are not won by protesting on it. If you have concern, remember the Kenyan election, right? It took them, I think, about 2 weeks before a winner could be decided, because the former Kenya Vice President Raila Odinga actually thought he won the election, right? But Ruto, who is now the current president, was very sure that he won the election. There was a lot of rancor, but at the end of the day, they approached the court even before the new president was sworn in, and the court was able to give a decision that it was Ruto that actually won the election. Even though Ruto was a sitting vice president as at that point, the president had another candidate that he supported to win the election. So this is democracy. Democracy does not recognize your emotion. Democracy is about numbers.
Democracy is about crazy.
It's about the numbers. And if the numbers are not in your favor, there's nothing you can do about it. And if you feel like you've been cheated in the process, there are things you could do to seek a redress. It's just unfortunate. Don't let me say unfortunate. It's just that in the history of presidential elections in Nigeria, once a president is declared, it's almost impossible for that decision to be overturned by a court. President Muhammadu Buhari fought in the court for 3 election cycles, in 2003, in 2007, in 2011. He fought up to the Supreme Court. It couldn't be overturned. 1979, Awolowo challenged the election. 1983, once a president is announced by the Electoral Commission, there's basically that president is sure to serve his 4-year term. At least that is what history has told us, right? That could be why Dino was trying to go the extra mile just to make sure that their concerns were addressed before a winner is announced, because he is also a student of history. So there's this, but at the end of the day, there's a country that we all need to protect, because before you can be the president, or before your party can be the ruling party, you first of all need to have a country to govern in the first place. And if you put up certain actions that have triggered people to take to do some things that they are not supposed to do, and then we have a full-blown crisis in the country, I mean, at the end of the day, who would you want to govern over if you don't have a peaceful country? So for Dino, I mean, after this particular act, then INEC went on break, and then by the time they came back, he had calmed down, because he made another attempt again to, to get the INEC chairman to address his concerns. And at that point, it was more calm, it was more persuasive, because I'm sure he had also realized that he probably pushed himself a bit too much. Yeah. So this kind of things happen.
So there's something that Dino did that I really have to bring everybody's attention to, because I remember when I was watching it, I just kept shouting, not shouting, but I pointed out that oh, this man is doing something it's like a power play. So, Dino had already said that, oh, he's having the issues with INEC and how, results are being presented, and he wants what was uploaded by the polling unit to be uploaded on the INEC website. Yeah. And that happened, and they walked out. And when they walked out and Dino addressed, the media, next thing Dino turns to the other party agents, the Labour Party and the rest of them that walked out with him, and said to them, you know what, guys, let's come together. And I looked at that and I'm like, if any of these party agents actually listen or go under this Dino's call, they have automatically submitted themselves to Dino in this particular fight, because Dino, as a politician who actually knows what he's doing, has already positioned himself as the leader of this walkout or of this protest of INEC's process. So with that being said, the headlines are already going Dino and others, PDP and others, PDP and others. And at this point, I don't know how you see that, but for me, I see that as the PDP's way of almost grouping other parties against INEC and maybe whatever party is leading, because the only party that so far on the poll really is leading and matters like that is the APC. And the APC, since obviously it's quite convenient for them, they're still seated inside the collation center listening to whatever INEC has to say. So this is not like the PDP creating a gang against others through Dino Melaye. What do you think about that?
Oh well, that particular move was expected because as it stands, I mean, at least before May 29, PDP still remains the biggest opposition party in Nigeria, and so if you have an election and you are losing against a ruling party, usually opposition parties are always united in one side, just to ensure that they fight a common enemy, in this case the APC, right? So I could understand why, and I mean, you have to give it to Dino Melaye. He's a big personality in the country, in the political scene. So he has the voice,
and the influencer, and content creator. In the influencer and content creation scene, but okay. So
yeah, he's a very interesting personality. Yeah. So when he made that move, and when you have someone that is ready to rally everybody, and other parties that also had their grievances, felt like, okay, we've seen, and again, you should understand Nigeria's mentality. We always look for someone to be the hero, someone that would lead us and say, okay, let's go. Everybody,
so they'll chop somebody's head.
So when he took that action, and it's in the PDP, it appears like the PDP as a party, had the biggest stake in this thing, according to what they would believe, because they felt like they should win the election, right? Even though the Labour Party also shared the same opinion. That's why you see the Labour Party agent also aligned himself with the procedure that the PDP and Dino Melaye took, and they all went. But another interesting thing that happened is that when Dino Melaye granted that interview to the press, you had, I didn't count, but you have nothing short of 10 agents, right behind him, giving consent to the action and all of that. But surprisingly, when INEC regrouped, you see some of the agents of this same party, they came back into the conference room and they started, dissociating themselves from that particular action. And as of the 18 political parties that took part in the election, 12 parties, and then of the 12 agents of the party, in fact, there was a particular party, Accord Party, they had their own national chairman was the one that spoke on their behalf. I said, me, I'm not part of that. I'm not part of that. So, Nigerian politics is very, very interesting. So, as it is right now, it's 12 versus 6, Labour Party, PDP, and 4 other political parties on one side. They've pulled out of the coalition process and they are calling for cancellation. And I think APC saw this coming because earlier in the day, just after the PDP, did their own press conference in the morning, the APC also did their own conference, press conference, where they called for the arrest of Dino for that action he put up in at the Coalition Center. They also called for the arrest of Dele Momodu for, alleging that the PDP was winning. That's trying to create an impression and then run with, so that people could run with that narrative that a particular party is being cheated. So they also call for the arrest of Pastor Paul Enenche for some kind of, some strong things that they said during the church service yesterday. So they said all that, but they also said another interesting thing, which is now beginning to look like what might happen or what the next line of action for the opposition parties could be, because Festus Keyamo said they got information that the PDP and Labour Party have activated their lawyers, senior advocates to ensure that they get a court injunction just to stop INEC from proceeding with the collection of results and announcements. And this, sort of again triggered the memory of June 12 all over, because if for anyone that was old enough, and if you're not old enough, if you read what happened during the June 12 election, June 1993 presidential election, where someone went to court right in the middle of vote counting and got a court injunction that the vote counting should be stopped. That was the beginning of the whole crisis, because the process was altered, and then what followed was an annulment, and Nigeria was thrown into a chaos. And this looked like something that might also happen again, because Labour Party is already calling for a cancellation. Dino is suggesting that the PDP would take an action. We don't know if they would also go to court. So interesting things, but we hope, we pray that we don't have a situation, that happened aftermath of the June 12 annulment again in Nigeria, because it really threw the country into a very big chaos. The military had to come in, because if we don't sort these elections out right now and May 29 comes, we don't have a new president, then there's a gap. We probably have to put an interim government together. Then we cannot predict what would go on with that whole process, because there are a lot of fifth columnists who are also interested in grabbing power. So we don't know who is pulling what string from where. So we need to be very, very careful as Nigerians, because at the end of the day, these politicians, they know themselves, they are friends. Dino Melaye was in APC like yesterday. You would see someone in PDP today, now in Labour Party. All these people, they are like colleagues. They are like you and I, moving from one middle house to the other.
Don't snitch us like this. Don't do this to us, man. Honorable journalist, off your mic.
Off your mic.
Let's actually.
So don't let any politician push you to do any silly things, please, Nigerians. Please, it's not worth it.
Let's actually focus a little bit on the Labour Party. Similarly, the Labour Party has asked the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, to cancel the ongoing collation on announcement of the 2023 presidential results. The DG Presidential Campaign Council of the party announced this in a press conference shortly after some party agents walked out of the collation center. Now, the Labour Party has, been on a roll, literally. This entire election, they have been somewhat the center of a lot of happenings. A lot of parties are affected by the emergence of this third force party. And with that being said, and with the backing that this party has had, at least, let me not say the backing, because at the end of the day, it's really these votes that will let us know how strong each party's backing is. But observably, especially online, this Labour Party tends to be a favorite of many people in the youth demographic, if I'm not mistaken. And during the elections, when you went out, I'm sure you witnessed a lot of obedience out there, counting votes, very enthusiastic about it, literally online, all the videos, VGC counting, the rejoicing from just polling unit wins of Labour Party. And then coming up to announcing, although it's just really 4 states that have been officially been announced. If I want to add Lagos, I'll say 5. But Lagos has not been officially announced, although the results have been...
You mean they say that Labour Party has won?
No, I'm not trying to say Labour Party has won. I'm saying that the excitement that people saw at the polling unit, translating to this early results, tears business also giving, you know, their own updates, tears causing tears.
So
you understand? A lot of things. So I feel like we should talk about the Labour Party a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
So at the Lagos State Collation Center yesterday, there was the Labour Party agent that, you know, kept on voicing out a lot of her concerns about that. And I feel like most of her concerns, in conjunction with maybe other states, I've heard stuff about River State as well and all of that. And all that may have created this bucket of reasons why the Labour Party has decided to tell INEC to cancel the announcement and the collation and possibly have another election. So before I get your thoughts on that, I would like to cue in, can we take a look at the video of the Labour Party
of the Lagos mainland? Apparently about 250,000 people registered to vote in that part of Lagos. Total votes cast over 40.
There was so I am not accepting this, and I'm making it clear to the whole world that we are not, Labour Party is not accepting it on the mainland. Thank you.
So that was Labour Party's Lagos agent saying she's not accepting the mainland results, and there were a couple of results that she came out to, you know, air her concerns over. What do you think about, you know, the Labour Party's, I will not say chances at this point, but how do you think that they should really take things as they are going, especially also, you know, the young audience, a lot of first-time voters, which really have identified themselves with the Labour Party. So how do you think Nigerians, the electorate, and even the party officials, the party chieftains and members, and possibly even the person running for the presidential election under that party, how do you think they should feel about these early results that have been put out there?
If I had to limit the scope of your question to just the presidential elections, it has not really been encouraging, to be honest. And this also applies to like the generality of the presidential election itself. Turnout has been horrible. Come on, Lagos State had over 7 million voters. PVC collected over 6 million, and all the votes that were recorded in Lagos State, you know, yesterday we're not up to 1.5 million. What is going on, Nigerians? We made a lot of noise about, you know, people coming out to vote. Everybody's tired. All the candidates said, oh, even if you are not going to vote for me, come out and vote, right? I think we are still stuck in that military mode. Maybe we spent too much years under military governments that, you know, adjusting or recalibrating ourselves into democratic practice has been sort of difficult. Because I was, on a personal note, I was so disappointed. I'm still disappointed about the turnout that we've witnessed so far. We've seen from the states that have been announced so far. I saw a state like Gombe, less than 1 million votes. In Kano alone, in 2019, Buhari had, I think, about 1.4 million votes, right? Votes cast over 2 million then. In this particular election, what we've seen so far, I'm not sure INEC has made the Kano result official, right? But we've seen numbers, right? Nigerians have seen numbers. They are not adding up. Compared to what we expected. So what Labour Party is claiming is that one of the reasons that was responsible for the problem I just talked about, where, you know, what looked like a systemic voter suppression that happened.
Like how? How do you think that happened?
So in so many polling units, and we talked about this yesterday, it was something that happened everywhere across the country. Even some foreign observers have said it, some local observers have said it, that INEC officials didn't arrive at polling units early in some polling units they arrive as late as 11 a.m. It's one of the polling units I went to yesterday on Saturday. Over 2,000 voters. INEC arrived at 11 a.m. As at 6 p.m. they were still trying to cast their vote. So some people, it looked like some kind of trick or plot to ensure that people are frustrated from being part of the process. So that is how systemic rigging usually works out. Pockets of violence, right? I mean, you can give it to the government, the federal government in this particular election, because the number of reports that we've heard as far as violence is concerned is very low compared to what we had in previous elections, especially in 2019. I mean, in Lagos State, we had disruptions in 28 polling units, but police responded quite early and voting was still able to take place. But one thing you cannot remove from the whole equation is that if there is an incident in street A, someone in street B might be very scared, to go out and vote again and be like, I don't want to come.
Even with citizen journalism, a lot of these posts of violence in areas.
So a lot of this violence that we post online could also scare people away from the process. So I really don't know what to pin it down to. It could be that. It could be the fact that at these INEC figures really, maybe we also need to take a deep dive into the figures and how can 6 million people collect their PVC and it's less than 2 million people that came out to vote. That was horrible. But as far as Labour Party is concerned, they feel like the turnout should have been more than this on the one hand. On the other hand, that, just like that woman that we just saw in that clip, even though that local government that she was contesting, I think Labour Party actually won it, if I'm correct. But there was a particular one that they even won, and she was still contesting it because if she felt like the results that were being announced, the figures that were being called at the collation center at the state level did not tally with what the Labour Party agents recorded on the field. So we saw a pattern repeating itself in so many local governments in Lagos State, and they felt like even though at the end of the day Labour Party won in Lagos State, the margin should have been wider than that. So they're complaining about suppression, manipulation of results, harassment of INEC officials by some political operators. These are the things that Labour Party is alleging, and they felt like these things spread across the country, and that has actually affected their chances of doing very well or doing as they had expected in the presidential election. So that's the angle they are holding on to, that if a new election is organized and all these glitches that were that happened can be taken care of and this process is allowed to run smoothly, maybe they would have more votes and probably emerge winner of the election. PDP also, expressed similar concerns. But again, it's still a positive outing for them. On a personal note, I must confess, I didn't give Labour Party a chance to pull off what they have.
I witnessed
you didn't witness anything.
I witnessed you not giving Labour Party a chance. I
didn't expect. I knew they were going to win. Some elections. I mean, the biggest shock in Lagos State, the biggest shock.
We stand shocked. We stand shocked at
from
Etiosa.
Nowhere.
We stand shocked at Etiosa. and in fact, actually, let's talk about Etiosa for a little bit, because for those who do not know, Etiosa local government, which is arguably one of the most popular, maybe after Ikeja, the most popular or the most, I guess the most popular, one of the most popular local governments here in Lagos, and one of the, in terms of politics, one of the most, interesting ones, or the ones that people are actually more concerned about and have close monitoring on the Etiosa elections. And what happened in Etiosa was the person who was representing Etiosa in the National Assembly, House of Representatives, was Ibrahim Obanikoro, who is with the APC. And we have Banky W, who is now with the PDP, who ran last time under another party. YPP. Was it YPP? Anyways, but he ran under another party.
I'm not sure. No,
it wasn't YPP, but he ran under another party previously against Obanikoro, lost to him, and then went to join the PDP, maybe for stronger structure. And if, before Labour Party came through, if any party was to beat the APC in anything, it would be the PDP. So Banky's strategic joining the PDP was, to level up enough to beat Obanikoro as, you know, this APC person. And no doubt, Banky obviously is more popular because of his works in the entertainment industry, music, whiskey, and all of this. So he's, and Adeswa, he's by far way more popular than Obanikoro in terms of people just knowing him. So that already was an advantage for him. And a lot of people really had hope that, Banky is going to win, Banky is going to win. But guess what? When the results were announced, the one person that I have never seen his poster anywhere, the one candidate that I have never seen him grant any interview, the one Etiosa constituency candidate that I have not heard, that people don't even have his picture, because when they were reporting his win, media houses reporting his win, we're looking for his picture. So his pictures are not even out there. That is the person that won. But guess what? This person was running under the Labour Party.
Why are we saying this person? Why are we not mentioning his name?
Oh, sorry. His name is Thaddeus Atta. Thaddeus Atta of the Labour Party has won the Etiosa constituency, and that is the biggest shocker. That is for me, that's the biggest shocker of results so far. No, well, maybe the second biggest shocker. The second biggest shocker of the results so far. And Nuruddin, you were trying to teach me something when I brought up this conversation with you earlier on. Why do you think that Etiosa voted a candidate that they don't even know?
Of course, like we said off the camera, they call it down ballot syndrome, down ballot effect. So there is this thing that you have a popular candidate leading your party in a bigger election, like the presidential election, like you have Peter Obi, and a lot of focus was on Peter Obi and Labour Party, and a lot of other candidates, a lot of candidates that were running for lesser elections on that particular platform, in this case Labour Party, would just tap from the party's popularity, you know, earned by the party's presidential candidate. It has happened before in some other elections, and that is what we are also witnessing today. Because if you look at the result from Etiosa, you would know that, no disrespect to Mr. Atta, but then again, a relatively unknown politician, at least in the grand scheme of things. But he was able to come from nowhere to defeat an incumbent APC, right? And the APC candidate he defeated is not just another candidate, not just another incumbent. It's someone that comes from a family that has, you know, a political dynasty in Lagos State. Jide Obanikoro, son of Musili Obanikoro, I mean, former minister, former governorship candidate in Lagos State. It was a very big one, like you said. And we can only put it down to Peter Obi's popularity. And for Banky W, probably on the insights now, he might be saying, oh, maybe I made the wrong move. Because in one of his interviews that I saw before the election, they asked him why he opted for PDP. And he said one of the reasons, when he did his analysis after the 2019 elections, he realized that the main reason he lost that election was because he was on a platform of a party that had no structure, a small party or non-party. And his calculation was, if he could be able to get on the platform of a party with structure and history like PDP in Lagos State, like you said, if there was any party that would beat the APC in Lagos State, it definitely has to be PDP. So that was his own calculation then, and he made the move. But unfortunately, there was a certain Peter Obi movement, you know, building up, and the wave just came, and Banky W became a victim. So congratulations to Mr. Atta. I mean, that's what the people voted for. I could see from the reactions we are getting from influential people in that constituency, they were, you know, try to express some kind of regret. It's as if people do like, wait, we just voted against Banky W because everybody was so passionate to vote for Labour Party.
But don't you think that attests to, because I realized that, you know, the Labour Party, they took this third first thing to the next step. I must commend, I don't know if it is the real party's campaign or just the supporters who are just so passionate, because they took sensitization to a different level. You know, there was times conversations came online that, oh, if this People's Third First Party person wins, he needs support in the National Assembly to be able to work effectively. And people started saying, you know what, if so, when you get
Then
your ballots, just only put Labour Party, only put Labour Party.
Exactly.
And I feel like that is exactly what the constituents of Etiosa did. They just carried thumbprints, fingerprint, and they were just, anywhere they saw Mama, Papa, Pikin.
You could say so.
Mama, Papa,
you
Pikin.
could say so because out of the 24 House of Representative seats that you have in Lagos State, APC, last time I checked before we came online, APC had won 2020, they lost 4. I could only figure out that of Labour Party, they won 1. So I don't know who won the other 3, if it was PDP or Labour Party. This is not a new phenomenon in Lagos State, it has happened before, right? 2011, 2015 or so, PDP picked, I think, 4 or 5 House of Rep seats or thereabout. So it's not a new phenomenon. What is new in this particular one is that a new party, a party that, okay, this is not a new party, actually. They've been around.
An unknown candidate.
No, it's not an unknown candidate. I'm talking about the wave, the Labour Party wave right now. So they came on board and they are like, they provided Nigerians, not only the youth, you know, it's a youth, you know, pioneered party. Like the youth are the main force behind the party, right? But it's not only a party of the youth. You have the PDP, who has been around since 1999. According to Nigerians in 2015, they agreed that PDP has messed up. They wanted a change. They opted for a change in APC. 8 years down the line, it seems Nigerians have not been satisfied with the APC performance. So they found themselves, you know, at a crossroads where you have to choose between the devil and the deep blue sea. But Labour Party came on board from nowhere.
Moses and divided the Red Sea.
You understand? So
or the Balabulu Sea.
It's not only that Peter Obi, you know, is a popular candidate. It's just that some people tell you APC, PDP, they are birds of same feather. And you could see, you know, usually one opening the door of APC today, tomorrow is opening the door of PDP. They always intermarry and divorce, come back again. So you can say Peter Obi has also been part of the PDP for some years, directed from Abga, but his own political philosophy, right? Even within the same party, you would have people with different political philosophy, ideologies, right? They might not have enough power to express themselves in that party. But then again, he opted out and found a platform that would allow him to express himself. And then there was anger in the land. PDP was a bride, an ex that Nigerians didn't want to go back to. APC is the abusive, you know, abusive partner that they are just stuck with, at least for now, according to Nigerians, or majority or some Nigerians that, you know, are supporting Labour Party. So they found Labour Party as a better alternative compared to the PDP, and that wave didn't not only happen in Lagos. It happened in Edo, they won a Senate seat. It happened in Abia State, they won a Senate seat. It happened in Enugu, they won a Senate seat. They won an House of Rep seat in Abia State. They've won House of Rep seat in some other state as well. I heard they also won, we don't know, we are trying to confirm that, but I heard they also won a senatorial seat in Abuja. Right? Although there are some peculiarities in some of these wins as well, because some of these politicians are not necessarily new, but because of the lack of internal party democracy in PDP, APC, to a large extent.
To a very large extent.
A very large extent, whereby someone somewhere would want to choose who runs for what in a particular party. So a lot of politicians were aggrieved and they went to another party. So some of them went to the Labour Party and were able to win the election. So it also goes to show that sometimes, or most times, the people that ends up on the ballot of these big parties are not necessarily the most popular members in the party, but they are relying on the popularity and the structure of the party to win the election. That's what
the backing of the party.
There was one incident that happened in Kogi State. There was one honorable that won the House of Reps seat for ADC in Kogi State. It was with the with the APC. It's a sitting House of Reps member. He couldn't get the APC ticket. He defected to the ADC. He won his election. It showed that he's actually on ground in the states, and he went to another party. He was able to win. So there are these dynamics, and there's the Peter Obi phenomenon as well. And there's that element of Nigerians just tired of everything APC, PDP, and they just wanted an alternative. Something
different. At least, even if not all Nigerians, the people of Ethiopia certainly did. So I want us to, actually, we've talked about the PDP, what they're up to. We've talked about the LP, what they're up to. Although we'll come back and touch, what the few states that INEC has officially announced. 4 states, and we will include Lagos in our conversation. 10 now?
Yeah.
Officially?
Yeah, before we came up.
Wow. Okay, 10 states now that INEC has officially announced. So we're going to, breeze through those announcements. But before then, I would like us to talk a bit about the APC. I don't think we have, spoken about the people who are currently in the lead. Are they still in the lead after this?
Yeah, after the 10 states, they are in the lead.
They're still in the lead. Okay, yeah. So currently in the lead. And the APC, much we've heard from them today are 2 statements. The first one, calling on the arrest for Dele Momodu, Pastor Enenche, and who else was the third person?
Dino
Melaye. So the presidential campaign for Bola Tinubu called for that, and then Tinubu himself also called for calm. So we've heard from APC twice now. What do you think, or you yourself, like if you were in the shoes of any of the APC spokesmen or anything, do you think them taking this early lead, especially, do you think that it puts them in a relaxed place, even despite having, although we'll still come to a hit on that, but I don't want you to expatiate so much, but even despite losing Lagos, which is very important because it is Tinubu's home, at least it's presumed Tinubu's home. With that loss of Lagos and with many other losses and more wins than losses, do you think that they are confident in their win now? And how do you think you're going to tackle these attacks, sort of, and the calls for cancellation of this election that seems to be favoring them?
So if you measure the tone of the agitations that have been going on, Labour Party, PDP, APC, you could read that, some party are trying to push for a rerun of the election. Labour Party, they feel like the numbers are not adding up for us.
Yeah,
guys.
And I do feel like if there's a rerun, people will be like, Ginger, so this is how this thing was going before. Don't you think so? Do you think that's why
we'll get to that. We'll get to all that later. So Labour Party has that belief. PDP felt from the tone of all the press releases, all the back and forth that they've been doing since morning, PDP were pushing for recounting of the votes, right? Because their first press conference did dwell so much on the fact that Tinubu did not have a path to victory because according to their own numbers, he had not been able to secure 25% of votes in 24 states at least, which is a constitutional requirement that a candidate needs to meet. In that press conference, they didn't, amplify on the fact that they have the majority votes, but they were more concerned about Tinubu not having 24%. So you could see who is pushing for what. When the APC came on board with their own press conference, they were more persuasive, they were more, trying to pour cold water on all the dust that had been raised. And they were trying to talk about June 12, don't stop this election, arrest these, there shouldn't be trouble. If you could analyze their mood, you would see that they feel like they have enough, votes to actually win the election. Because it's only normal for a party that knows that they might not win the election to start raising bones. let's go back to Trump in 2020, right? The US election. He was calling for insurrection or incited insurrection, pulled all sort of tricks, trying to change the course of the. That was a sitting president, right? If he was winning, if he knew he would win the election, he wouldn't pull all those, tricks that he did. The same thing, the same pattern can be noticed here. If one particular party is just saying, in fact, the first statement APC issued this, was it yesterday or, overnight, was allow INEC to do their job.
Yeah.
Right? So the reality is, all these big parties, they have their situation rooms.
Yeah, and they have to
where the numbers are being crushed.
Yeah.
Right? PDP has their situation room. They might have seen that, guys, things are not adding up first. APC has their situation room. They're saying, we are on the path to victory, so let us
keep going.
Let us not allow the opposition to scuttle the process. Because if that happens, and there's a rerun or there is a reorganization of the election, because a rerun in the technical definition means something else. That is, if a clear winner does not emerge at first ballot, then there should be a rerun. And then there's another rerun that Labour Party is calling for.
That rerun, who will fund it? This same Nigeria?
The INEC has, there's a budget provision for it, so it's not a problem. Okay. And INEC told us long before the election that they printed 2 sets of ballot papers for the presidential election. Excuse me.
Proactive INEC.
Hey, proactive, So yeah, you could see from the tone of conversation who is winning and who is losing.
All right. So before we move, sorry about that. Before we move in to actually looking at what the votes have said so far, what INEC has officially announced so far, I'd like us to actually view the APC's press conference, which was held earlier today. Take a look.
Seems we don't have that video ready. Okay.
If the video is not ready, then we're going to move forward. So, the time we've all been waiting for. Lagos.
Echo
City.
City.
Echo has budget.
No.
Echo has budget. No. Echo
take
budget.
that back. Echo ni budget.
Echo ni budget.
Lagos.
But Echo has betrayed.
Betrayed who?
Echo did not deliver.
For who?
Lagos did not deliver APC. Lagos did not deliver for Tinubu. What's happening?
Lagos delivered for Tinubu. Yes.
But Obi delivered more. They delivered Obi more.
There are different dynamics in election of this nation. If this was a governorship election, for instance, Labour Party takes the win. But this is a national election, right? You have to be able to compete in states where you have high registered voters. So you think APC competed, and they were up against a lot of factors in the states, right? There was Allstars, there was the issue of area boys harassing people, there was the issue of union, plethora of issues that APC had to deal with. And there's also these silent, grumbling Lagosians who are just tired of some of the things that they've witnessed in the state over the years. This is really not a judgment against, say, the current Lagos State governor. It's just a resentment against an entrenched system that has been in place for over 20 years. And people could not just wait to, speak with their votes. That is what happened. So if you put all these things in a context, and then you measure it against their performance, you would realize that losing by less than 10,000 votes is actually a win for them, because the votes they recorded in Lagos State will be added to the ones that they recorded somewhere else.
True that.
And the number will add up at the end of the day, right? Compared to, say, Atiku losing in Kano. From the numbers that we've seen, I'm not even sure it would make 25% in Kano. So that's a big concern because Kano has huge population of voters, and you are not even able to make 25% in what is meant to be one of your strongholds because you are a northerner and you are riding on that northern sentiment, right? But for someone like Tinubu, lost is a state. It's not a new thing. Obasanjo lost Ogun State in 1999. Didn't stop him from becoming the president. Buhari lost the state in 2007, although he didn't win the election, but he lost the state. It has happened before. Tinubu might still end up winning the election, despite the fact that he lost Lagos State. But it speaks volume about the kind of change we might witness in the political configuration of Lagos State in the years to come. So, yeah.
All right. So I would let our team show us right now the results so far of the elections.
Make your presentation for Ondo State.
Party APC 369924. 369924. Party LP 47350. 47350. Party PDP 115463. 115463.
The results for the presidential election held on the 25th February 2023 in Osun State. APC 343,945. 343,945. LP 23,283. 23,283. PDP 354,366. 354,366.
The result for the presidential election held on 25th February 2023 in Kwara State are as follows. APC 263,572. 263,572. LP 31166. 31166. PGP 136909. 136909.
Well,
I don't think we should talk about it one by one, Sha, because it's a lot. I think we'll find another time.
That's just
to
like
have
a
that.
snapshot of some of the states that have been announced by INEC so far.
And Pulse Nigeria has publicized every result that has been officially announced. So you could check out our website, you could check out our Instagram page, our Facebook, our Twitter page, our YouTube page, and our TikTok to keep abreast and updated with everything and with whoever is winning wherever. But Nuru, generally, let's round it off. Generally, what do you think that people should expect, in the next few hours from INEC and from the parties?
Oh, well, I expect the APC to maintain the tone that they've, been using all day, like trying to make sure that everyone is calm, there's no violence, because they look confident, they appear confident that they are going to win the election. So I would expect them to double down on that. Even though the PDP and other major Labour Party will try to up the ante, you will see a lot of calls to the international community. I read before we came online that the European Union, raised some concerns about the election, even though the Commonwealth observers said there are rooms for improvement, but the election was largely credible. That's quoting them now. So conflicting judgment, already coming from international observers, right? So both parties will latch on the one that favors their position. APC will say, some observers said it's credible. PDP will try to amplify the other side. We might see some kind of court move, more press conferences. They'll try to up the ante, try to, rally Nigerians to take a position, right? So, seems like the current APC government, the one in power, has lost its popularity with the one they came to power with in 2015. And PDP would believe that if they can, eat up the politics to the extent that majority of Nigerians can take a stand and say, we don't want APC again, completely, right? So maybe something could change for them before INEC eventually announces the winner. And because the moment that happens, then it's going to be extremely difficult and, to overturn it. So those kind of things I expect to happen. See a lot of organizations coming out to take position. But for Nigerians, we are still, in a kind of limbo. We don't know what's going on. Before the elections, we had our issues before. No fuel, no cash. Everywhere it's almost like, every day is almost like Christmas on the streets of Lagos now, because everywhere is just quiet. But it's going out, economy is, taking a serious hit as a result of the cash crunch. So the sooner this election ends, the better for everybody, so that we can go back to our normal life. So, yeah.
I guess that's it, guys. So, as we all know, winter is here and winter is almost over, as we have cast our votes and we are now waiting on the announcement on who will be Nigeria's next president. Until then, you should follow the conversation and every news update on Pulse Nigeria. Keep abreast with everything we have for you in terms of updates about the coverage of the 2023 general elections, for the presidential seats and the National Assembly seats, for the red chambers and for the blue chambers?
No, green.
Green chambers, I mean, balabulu, blue blah, for the green chambers. So until then, I am your host, BBNaija. This is Nuruddin. We will be on your screens every now and then, so that is why you need to follow Pulse on all platforms to make sure that you catch us for all updates, especially around the presidential elections and the National Assembly elections. This is Pulse. Thank you and good night.
Not a single soul has voted up until now.
We did.